All right, let's just make a stinking knife already. That's enough of the hibbity bibbity. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the shop. Thank you for joining me again. This is going to be part 2, maybe, like part 1.5, maybe, or part 1. Maybe like part 1.5, technically, to how to make a knife, simple and clean. We started out with the design in the last video. Look for it here, here, or here, or there. One of those places. Anyway, we started out with the design. We came up with that right there, a little hunter. You know, a little simple hunter, nothing big, no big deal. I'll put the link in the description below to download it off of my website. Also, in the next video, as I was designing a knife for the MagnaCut blade, I came up with this guy right here, kind of a bushcraft clip point, small buoy type of thing. But anyway, we're gonna make both of them today. I'm actually gonna cut out both of these knives and test them out. These are the prototypes, so we'll see how this works. This one I think could be a really functional little camp and field, and you know, maybe even kind of like a bird and trout hunting knife. Definitely a hunting knife, but similar to a bird and trout, almost small enough for that. So we're gonna jump into making that. I've got my steel in. We're gonna do them both in CPM MagnaCut. I can't believe I'm doing this, but here we go. This portion of the exercise is not complicated. You will simply need scribe, some steel, and your patterns. I usually put my patterns on Bristol paper. It's thicker if I'm only going to use it once or twice, and if I end up using it a lot, then I will put it on micarta, and if I use it a whole lot, then I'm going to put it on metal. So anything that sticks around for a while eventually gets metal. I definitely overbought this width steel. It's 1.5 inches wide. I really could have gotten away with 1.25 inches for that knife. For that one, yeah, probably could have for that one as well. So we're gonna try to make the most of it, even though this is really expensive steel. We're gonna have a little bit of waste. I could forge it, but that'd be even more wasteful and stupid. Anyways, here we go. Scribing it on there. If you hear children screaming in the background, I swear they're not being murdered. They're just boys, and they're boneheads, and they're playing in the sunshine with rocks and sticks, throwing stuff past my window, as boys should. Now we cut something simple like this with a, you know, just a simple pipe cutting bandsaw, portable one. It's got a 14 to 18 inch teeth per inch blade on it. I found that cuts really, really well for most common steels in titanium. So I'm gonna turn the volume down because this is annoying. All right, now it's time to grind. So just profiling on the belt grinder here. I've got my plate, my flat platen here built up enough to kind of center the steel onto the wheel, since it's a concave surface and not a flat surface. It's going to give a little bit of a concavity to, or you know, unevenness to the spine. So get it as close to center as possible. I've got it built up with a scrap piece of 1/4 or 3/16 inch bone linen micarta. So I'm just going to grind. I got a pretty fresh-ish but broken in 36 grit belt, and that is what I use to do most of my profiling with. Both of them profiled. This is a good time to test fit the handles, make sure it feels okay. Got enough grip length. Yeah, I think that'll work. I'm going to clean them up to 400 grit. So I'm going to just clean them up to 400 grit here and then clean up the choil area and the rounded area with my small wheels. Yeah, that's pretty decent size. I might round that off and soften that a little bit, maybe widen that out so that if you need to choke up on it, it's a more of a, you know, you got plenty of room there. Okay, now we're just going to find the center line and mark for punches. Scribe one line like that, one line like that. Gives us our rough center mark. Okay, and I want handle here, first pin about there, second pin about there, and I always go 350 thousandths off the back for the lanyard. And I kind of favor the top line here because the bottom of the belly of the knife could shift a little bit. So to keep everything kind of even, I favor towards the top of center to make sure everything kind of flows better. I'm actually going to move that one forward just a hair. Go drill some holes. 3/16 and F. I use the letter F. It's a 1/4 inch thong tube that I use in the back end, but I always go a hair bigger on the metal than the 1/4 inch. I go up to F. Okay, now we're going to find measurements here and leave about 40 thousandths on the edge thickness. So we're at 1/85th, so minus 40, that's 140. So we're going to go 70 thousandths per side. I'm actually going to carry that across. I'm going to actually carry that into the spine. Like that. And then on the back end, I'm going to drop that down to 65 thousandths or 60 thousandths. So that's going to give us a 55 or 50-ish thousandths gap in the middle for our tapered tang, which I'm always a fan of a tapered tang, and I leave them about 50 to 60 thousandths. I think they just look nicer. So mark that all the way around, and somebody decided to start the laundry while I'm working. So for now, I share my shop with the laundry room. But I'm going to build a wall, because walls work. Alright, and for my next trick, on this next bit, whether you are tapering the tangs or not, I would recommend doing this to kind of reduce some of the weight in the handle of a knife. And it's just using a small wheel to remove some of the material back here where the pins are going to be. You can do the same thing by just skeletonizing, by grinding a bunch of holes in it, but I find this to be the easiest route, especially since I usually taper the tang. So this removes a lot of that metal out of there in an easier and cleaner way. You can get a little deeper, so just remove material. So it's kind of decision time. I've got holes drilled, profiled, roughed out, everything's ready to go. Grab the right one. Let me grab the knife of subject. I gotta decide whether or not to taper tang. Personally, I always taper the tang. I hate, absolutely hate, I abhor the way my knives look without taper tangs. Personally, I do not like putting anything out there that doesn't have a tapered tang. I think it just looks better. It's a better aesthetic choice in a lot of ways. It does thin things out and lighten things up a little bit. Personally, I think it's a better aesthetic choice for a lot of knives. So not tapering the tang it's kind of a struggle bus thing for me. I struggle. So I'd normally do it 9 times out of 10, 99.9999999% of the time actually. Can't think of the last time I didn't taper a tang, but I might not actually do it with this one. Anyway, this is the point you would taper the tangs, and then we're going to grind in the bevel. Whether or not you taper the tang is up to you. I am not going to cover tang tapering in this video though, regardless. That is the subject I think I'm going to save for a short video, more specific, and something I can do like really targeted video on just how to taper the tangs and the best way to do that and why and how and all the things, you know what I mean? So more than I want to cover right here. So let's get into the bevel. Okay, I'm going to do the talking head portion of this video while I'm finishing up the grind. You can watch here below. You can see I'm going into the rough grind with a nice gritty 36 grit. I start off with a lower, like a used 36 grit to set the main bevel, to get the main bevel on here to cut, because when you go into a really fresh belt, if you go right into the hard edge of this before knocking a bevel into it down to your line, it can shear the grain right off your belt. So I use a dull belt to set the main bevel, the edge there, and then I get a really good gritty brand new belt, 36 grit, to actually grind the full bevel in. So that's what I'm doing in this last portion here, is just grinding the bevel into this knife. I've got it up to 400 grit now. And that's going to be the final finish before I go to heat treating. So normally before heat treat, I leave knives at about 40 to 50 thousandths on the edge with about 80 thousandths at the tip, and I don't go all the way back to the spine on my bevel yet, just so there's a little wiggle room after heat treating, if there's warps or whatever. However, with this CPM Magna Cut, it's a little bit more of a pain in the neck to grind after heat treat than most steels. It's actually kind of sucks. So I'm taking it a lot further than I normally do. You can see in real time though how easy and quick it grinds with a fresh 36 grit belt. Before heat treat, while it's annealed, it actually grinds really well, and it grinds really quick. I got the main bevels on this thing in real time now. I mean, I'm playing this real time in the background there, so whatever that works out to being, it's not much to get the bevels whipped onto a thing like this with a great gritty belt knife, or with a really gritty belt. So you can get your bevels down pretty quick. A little cleanup takes maybe another 15-20 minutes after that to clean them up to 400 grit, because you got to make sure you get all the big scratches out so that there is no stress fractures and that kind of thing. I also deburr the spine, and I deburr the edge and make sure everything else is deburred around. Make sure it's straight and true. It hasn't picked up a warp during the grind, because some steels will pick up a warp while you're grinding them. So you just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. If it does, straighten it now, because trying to do it after heat treat, pain in the neck. I went ahead and tapered the tang on this one because I just couldn't fight the brain worms off and I had to do it. I wasn't going to, but I went ahead and tapered the tang. I will cover that in another video. I taper my tangs when I do it. I rough taper all the way up to about right here. So that flat plane goes all the way up to about right here before heat treat. Again, leaving a little extra thickness so that if there is any warp or anything in the heat treat, I can go back and correct it with either grind or some straightening techniques I can show in the future. Most of the time in steels like this with higher alloy contents and the higher grade steels, they're pretty stable in heat treats, so warps are not always a thing. They're not very common, let's put it that way, especially if you have a quench plate setup that really works well for your systems. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. All the way up from concept to rough grind, we are ready to go to heat treat. After that, we will do the finish on this knife. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet, because it's kind of it's one of those type of steels that they don't take a nice finish very well, but you can put a nice finish on them, just not a high grade one. Does that make sense? Maybe not. Anyway, I've got to get this other one up to speed, so I'm behind the curve on this one. Still got to taper this tang and grind the bevel on that bad boy. I'm going to do that, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you for joining me again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Click the little notification buttons down below. If you'd like to see more of this type of content in the future, please comment. And I can be reached on my website, calebwhite.knives.com, on X at CWhiteKnives, on Instagram at calebwhite.knives, here on YouTube at Caleb White Knives, and through my email, which is on my website. Thank you for joining me again, and I hope to hear from you, and I will catch you on the next one.